Hello from wherever you are, and welcome to Let's Play Games. I'm John McFarland, Adult Services Librarian for National Public Libraries, and I hope you'll join me in learning or rediscovering some of the more common and uncommon games out there. This time, we're going to do ourselves a 3-episode special on one of the simplest board games to learn and one of the hardest board games to master. Played for thousands of years, putting little stones on little points, making shapes, creating space, dividing, conquering, making eyes. This is Go. Let's get stuck in. So, Go is one of those games that takes only a couple minutes to teach. Simply because at its core, you are cordoning off territory with your stones, you're capturing stones, and trying to make sure they survive as long as possible. Easy enough, right? Well, what we have here is a 9x9 board. So 19x19 is a full size, but we are not going to start there. Let's work our way up, shall we? So what I'm gonna do is show you the basic concepts, and I'm gonna even shrink this down further. We're gonna make it a 5x5 because I want to show you just how stones are placed and how it can impact. So what I'm gonna do is this 5x5, this center point here, we're just gonna focus on this little square right here. So what happens is instead of, like we're familiar with a lot of games in the West playing on the square, we do not do that here. We play on the points. So what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna place stones. And for this version of Go, no pieces will be captured. It's just play stones and whoever has the most stones wins. Easy, right? Well, let's look at the concept. So black will play first and we'll get to scoring way on down the line. But at its core, the person who plays white actually has a certain number of points as compensation for going second. So black not only has to have more points, but have more points plus the little handicap, a term called komi. Like I said, we'll get to more of that later. So white's gonna play, they're gonna play for their little corner. Black's gonna play, and white's gonna play, and black's gonna play. And white's gonna play. Notice that they've reached the, like I said, for 5x5, they've reached the edge. So this space is kind of there. Black says, hey, I'm gonna come over here, try and get that space. White says, not so fast. And black says, all right, fine, but I'm definitely taking this space. White says, all right, well, I'm taking this space. So this is just placing pieces to try and cordon off space that's yours. So notice we're already kind of running into a problem here, where if you can't capture pieces, part of the core is going to be, well, next we have black can play over here. I'm taking away your space. White says, all right, fine, I'm gonna take away your space. And back and forth until this entire board fills up, which will happen fairly quickly. And when it does, you're gonna find out that no one has space, can't be captured, so they take that free space away. White says, okay, I'm gonna take that free space away. You're gonna keep on playing until you run out of spots on the board. Now, oops, sorry. Notice that we only played, what's that, 25, 5x5. We filled up the board. And in this instance, because there's no capture, black will always win. So assume that the komi or the handicap was 0.5 to avoid ties. Well, black, okay, fine, wins by 1, but that's because they went first. It's not fair, right? So what we have here at its core is, I'm gonna go ahead and reset. We're gonna do this a fair amount, but we're gonna keep this 5x5, right? Black plays here. White plays here. Black is gonna move towards the center. White's gonna try and cut them off. Black's gonna try and cut them off. And then white's going to try and cordon off space. Black is going to cut inwards. White's going to say, not so fast, my friend. Black is going to say, well, I'm just going to let you have this space. White is going to play here. So one of the core concepts of this game is capturing. So notice that it's Black's turn to play. And obviously I've not played very well to this point because I'm just playing simple. What you are doing is pieces are connected when they are physically connected as such. Not a great shape. You're going to hear me talk about shapes a lot. So 2 together or 2 together is a shape. It's just called ladder. This little triangle makes a shape of 3, and it creates open space. Open space is the key to this game. These are referred to as liberties. You want to preserve as many liberties on the board as possible for yourself while cutting off your opponents. So I'm going to specifically point out here. Take a look at this center area. Notice how if you placed a stone here, this white piece right here would have no liberties remaining. So what do you do with it? You would capture that piece and put it into your coffers. So you would think, okay, well, I've got 3 liberties over here, so fine, I'm just gonna take yours. Not so fast. This is the rule called ko. Just means repetition. So you cannot exactly place as though you're gonna recreate where it was. This is just a back and forth and back and forth. There's no point. So the requirement for the white player is going to be they have to place their piece where it's something different on the board. So let's say, this is why also 5 by 5 is extremely limited here, because you want open space, can't do anything there. You can't place here because remember this is the edge of the board. Black just has to play here and they've captured. They've got 2 liberties here, but that's probably not going to move too fast. 2 liberties here, 1 liberty here, you definitely want to do there. So maybe play like right here. So then Black will say, okay, what am I gonna? I'm gonna capture another of your pieces. It is at this point where White could actually then play here and capture that piece, because 1 turn has elapsed for something else. This is the core rule of Go. Creating territory, capturing stones. It's a radically simple game, but I understand this can be a more complex game as we go along. So we're gonna take this step by step. We're not gonna leave this 9 by 9 board today for sure. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna reset and I'm gonna create some what are called positions and circumstances that I can illustrate some basic concepts of what you want to do. So we'll put these stones back. Let me get this set up, but first, I want to tell you a little bit about the history of this game. It's really fascinating. So, you're going to hear me refer to this game as Go. This is what I learned it as. There are other names for this game depending on where you're playing from. In China, where this game originated, it was known as Weihui, which means encompassing fields, basically is the loose translation here. In Korea, it is known as Baduk, which translates to field of stones. So you're going to find, especially if you search online for any strategies here, you are definitely going to see some different names. But almost invariably, this means that it's the same game, it's the same concept, just different names for different areas. But for this series, we're going to refer to it as Go. So here we are with a simple setup. Like I said, a 9x9 board. We're gonna set up some territory to be captured. Now let's take a look at the board and see what we're working with here. It is, for the example of here, there may be other pieces on the board, but it is Black's turn to play. Notice that they've got 3 spaces that they have over here of free territory. You think, okay, not bad. How would you, as a hypothetical here, place these pieces where you could guarantee that that is not going to come out? So there's a couple places that you could theoretically play. So there is some terminology here with regards to similar to chess notation. There's Go notation. A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So if I say I'm playing at I9, I'm talking about right here. So I'm going to try and point out and also say which piece that I'm going for here. So let's play first at B1. You think, okay, that's 2 pieces, 2 spots. We're fine, right? Right? Well, White's going to play here. And this is going to create some space considerations. So now Black says, uh-oh, I've got space. Fine, we'll just place it here. I'll lose another piece of space. But, hey, you can't do anything, right? Not so much. At this point, take a look at the board. How many liberties does Black have left? The answer would be 0. So you always have to be paying attention to your shapes, how they're connected, and making sure that they cannot be broken. So this is obviously not the best way to play it, because now you've lost 6 stones right there. So let's pop back a little bit. Just do a nice little rewind. All right, so now, again, it's, it's Black's turn to play again, and we're gonna play here at D8. And sorry, I forgot to take that off the board for this example. That would be the next play. All right, you've hemmed it in. So now, where can Black play to keep what are called a pair of eyes? What you're trying to do is make sure that you are placing pieces where there are no liberties and where you cannot be taken without making a blunder of some sort. Pause it, think on a second. Hit play when you're ready. Okay, so the easiest one here is actually going to be B1. Why? Well, White can't play here. There's no liberties. Impossible to play. Same for C1. Can't play with no liberties. You have formed what are called eyes. And because of this, you are in a position now to say, all right, these 2 spots, yes, I'm hemmed in, but you're not taking those 2 spots. Then you can try and go sort of like on the attack eventually. And this is just a simple version of the problem. We don't have to think about the rest of the board for now. I just want to illustrate these concepts as you're learning. So give me 1 second. Let me set up another position. I can give you another example of trying to preserve or capture. 1 second. So now that we've talked about eyes, let's talk about false eyes. This is almost what we had before. We just flipped the roles here. And it's currently Black to play. So they are going to play right here. Try and cordon off some space to where you're always going to want to think maybe 1 or 2 moves ahead as you learn this game. To think, okay, where is the person going to play next? So, of course, they're not going to play here because that will be captured. They can kind of play here, which is not a bad idea, but it does mean that Black's probably going to play over here next. So that's part of the game, is thinking about not only what your moves are, but what their moves are. So here, general concept, not bad, right? That's 2 eyes. They can't be captured, right? Well, watch what happens next. where are they supposed to play exactly? Not really anywhere specific, especially with sometimes you're limited in your position. So this is not terrible as an eye concept, but the issue you're going to have is right here. So this would be E1 for where you're looking. That piece still has liberties. Well, can't place it here because that would create a really nice shape. There's only one liberty left. Can't do it for here, only one liberty left. So, what are you supposed to do? At this point, you're going to have to realize that you're in some trouble and you've made a goof. So, I'm just going to play somewhere. It does not matter necessarily where, because when black plays, they're capturing that piece. And then later on, can't remove liberty here. So, okay, we're just going to start over here. Whoops. This is why you have to pay attention to where you're placing pieces, because this is an important element of this game. And trying to make sure that you have everything figured out. Piece by piece, this is why you generally end up trying to make shapes, but being careful about that shape. More on that in a minute. I want to set something else up for you. 1 second. All right, so freshen things up. We just moved to the other side of the board here. Now, let's take a look at where we're at. So white is absolutely hemming these pieces in, and just ignore the rest of the board for now. There is actually a way to make 2 eyes to preserve black's pieces and at least 2 points of territory. And technically, there's not much that white can do about it. So black's going to play here. Makes this little triangle shape, which, okay, not great, not bad. There's still liberties out there, so we're doing fine. White says, okay, we're going to hem you in. We're going to create this little piece where, unless you can capture over here, nothing you can do about it. Here's black's play. They've got 2 of these shapes. That can't be taken. That can't be taken. So by removing the available liberties from the rest of the board, you're actually in a nice position to at least, yes, you're absolutely hemmed in over here, but the more points that you have banked and there's nothing that can be played there, the better off you're going to be when it comes to a game where, especially on 9x9, the difference between this point or that point is gonna end up being a huge impact. When we move to larger pieces of the board, we're gonna run into situations where you are in a position to maybe lose a fight somewhere else and start winning somewhere else. But we'll get onto that in a future episode, because there's more concepts to teach you just for simple strategy to play this game. 1 second, let me get set up. So why has this game lasted for thousands of years? Well, partially because it's simple, rather easy to replicate. Also because in the Chinese aristocracy where this game was invented, it was considered one of the 4 essential skills of any Chinese noble. It was calligraphy, painting, playing an instrument, and playing Go. So because of that, there have been millions of this version of the game played, but it all translates to roughly just about the same rules over time. But considering 19x19, next time you have a calculator out, do the math. Multiply 19 squared. That's the number of possible combinations of a board. There's a lot. This is why the game has such replay value, because you will never play the same game of Go twice, ever. I promise you. So, a little more simple version to talk about in the center of this field. Now, what you're going to run into a lot is eventually you're going to want to do more than just make small little portions over here and try and carve out territory. You're going to do what's called cutting. So you're going to cut into these pieces. Now consider that this stone only has 2 liberties left. You've created another stone with 2 liberties. Similar situations, very even. White's saying, okay, well, we're gonna do that. Okay, so black goes from having 1 liberty left to having 3. So white says, all right, fine. Do this over here. Black says, well, I can still keep developing, and that leaves 1, 2, 3 liberties. Because in case I hadn't said it before, diagonals do not count as liberties. These are just cardinal directions, up, down, left, and right. So we're just only a couple of moves in here. And just by cutting along the board, there's now a stone disconnected, and in order to capture these 2, you'll need to place pieces here, here, and here. And to capture these 2, you'll need here, here, and here. So cutting is a simple and effective way to get around some of these little walls that have been developing as I've been showing you the concepts. One second, let's go in a bit more depth here. There's a little bit more to show you. One second. This seems a fairly mild setup, right? Nothing to worry about. And white says, all right, I'm going on the attack. We're gonna cut in. We're gonna remove liberties here. We're gonna start trying to capture your pieces. Well, black says, all right, fine. We'll try and capture one of your pieces. And white is able to play right here. Not bad. But now we're back to 1. Uh-oh. Here's why it's uh-oh. Well, if white plays here, black has just captured 3 stones for a very small price. Not the best move here. It's at this point where actually white would usually recognize that things are not in a great spot. So what they're going to do is put some pressure on this piece, and then black can play here. So sometimes when you realize that you've made a mistake and you know your pieces are going to be captured, don't worry, because this means that you are only going to lose 2 rather than 3. So that is 2 for black. But notice you've still got a shape. This isn't a dead set eye yet. Things are generally fine. More often than not, you're going to have to eventually play right here. So they're only getting 1 to 2 territories of space anyways. So that at its core is cutting a little more complex. And notice we're starting to use just a little bit more of the board at a time. I'm going to keep building on that. One second. All right. This is the last situation that I'm going to talk about this episode. It's a concept called Atari. And if that name sounds familiar, yes, the game system Atari is named after this move from Go. Atari is determined when there are pieces that are under attack with only 1 liberty remaining. You've seen this a couple times with the 3-piece setup, and okay, we may capture it here in a moment, but there's a good time when you have the right pieces set up where you can get double Atari. It means that you're capturing a piece. It does not matter what the other person does. Something's getting captured. So it's black to play. Let's look at the board here. Decent amount of space has been carved out. Not bad, right? Well, over here, okay, not really connected setup, but it's not exactly all over the place. But black is about to go on the offensive. I want you to look at the board a second, pause it, and see if you can spot where I'm about to play next for a double Atari. Okay, welcome back. So, see this point right here? That's a yikes. There's no piece that white can capture right now. So you've got 2 options. Play here or play here to try and see if you can guide where the inevitable capture is going to happen. I mean, sure, you could play here maybe, but something's getting captured because once you do, these 3 pieces are alone. These 2 pieces are alone. Your goal is to keep things as connected as possible. This is bad. This is not a game ender. If you play here, well, yeah, okay, black's about to take this piece, but you've got a chance at getting back into this, developing. This 4 shape right here is still workable. You've got 1, 2, 3, 4 liberties remaining on this. 1, 2, 3 here. So it takes some time and strategy to learn this game, but take it step by step, kind of go with these core concepts and play a practice game. All you need is a piece of grid paper and some markings, and you can play this game no problem. You can use whatever tokens you want as long as you have these general concepts down. But for today, I think that is plenty on the core concepts of Go. So as it relates to Weikui, I'm gonna push off to the side for the moment and continue on with the Chinese aristocracy. This is a game that was played primarily among nobles. These were the people who could afford to have the leisure time to sit down and play longer strategic games. This would be used for statisticians, this would be used for generals in the military. But among the common people, there was another game that has a loose spin-off of being sort of on the points. This is Shang-Chi, a series in which I will absolutely cover at a later date. But Shang-Chi is now known as Chinese chess, and it looks remarkably similar to chess in our European understanding. Its also close cousin is shogi. We'll get to those in future episodes. That's all the time we have for today. Thanks for tuning in. Be sure to join me next time where we add another layer of complexity. We're gonna go from 9 by 9 to 13 by 13. We'll work our way up. I'll see you next time.